Hey everyone, it's Terry. Welcome back to Decorate with Tip and More. So in today's video, it should be a really fun one. Do an AI challenge. We're gonna let AI style a space in our home with our help. We're not gonna give it free reign. And then we're gonna take you along step by step with the process. I'm gonna use Google Gemini. There's so many AI apps out there. I'm not going to say which one is best. Hopefully, what we do or what we find out is better. Maybe it'll help you for your next project that you want the AI to do for you. So, about a month ago, I sent out 3 spaces in our home asking your opinion on what space should I allow AI to style for me. And about 99.9 of you has said the family room wall. I do have problems with that. I know that I love what I put on there. It's just not feeling right. And I have never really got it to where I'm like, I love it. So I'm going to see what AI does with my help. Now, when I decided to do this, I sat down and looked at a few videos on people using AI to style their home. And to be honest, I found a lot of errors with AI. Your wording has to be to the point and your measurements have to be accurate for you to get that feel and for them to paint the picture of how your room or your space will look like after you do the changes. So without further ado, let's go in the family room. I'm going to show you the wall, how it is right now. And then we're going to go step by step on how we're going to design this wall to make it that wow factor that I have been longing for. So let's go in the family room. Okay, so here's the space I'm hoping Google Gemini will create a beautiful styled wall that is a transitional farmhouse with a modern flair. The first step I did is I took 3 photos of the wall, a full front view, a right view, and a left view. I uploaded all 3 photos and typed in, create an image on how you would improve this wall in a transitional farmhouse with a modern flair. Here is the space that they generated. As you can tell, the scale is way off, but it does give me a good idea what the space would look like. Here's what Gemini said about my space as it sits now. You already have the perfect bone for it. Warm woods, clean lines, natural texture, and the great mix of black and caning. We just need to shift the styling so it feels more curated, more layered, and a little more elevated. So I typed in, love this look. Let's break it down in sections. Let's work on the left side wall first. All right, before we get started on removing all of the decor and putting things up, I want to give Gemini the exact measurements of my wall. So when I ask them a question, they'll know exactly the space that we've got, what the size is. So I'm going to go from the doorway trim all the way over to the side of the cabinet. And I know that we have 8-foot ceilings on the first tray. So that's the measurements we're going to give them. And then hopefully it will tell me exactly where to place my new items. So I'm going to go ahead and measure the wall first, and then we're going to input it into Google Gemini, and we'll work from there. I took my measurements from the trim to the side of the cabinet. I typed in the wall measurements at 95 inches wide, and from floor to the first tray is 8 foot. And I also gave a photo of just that section of the space. I love their replies. This one said, yes, that's a great decision on your part for dividing the wall up in sections. Your clock is getting visually swallowed by the width of the wall and the height of the cabinet. For the ideal clock for this wall, look for one that is 28 to 38 inches. Also, a thin black frame with a neutral background with black numbers. This keeps a modern flair while still nodding to the farmhouse warmth. So I went looking for that perfect clock. I found one similar in Kirkland's store. It was the size I needed, the thin black frame and the neutral background, but the numbers were not black. I looked at the back of the clock and noticed it could be removed quite easily. It had real large tabs on the frame that you just pulled up to take the back off. So for the price, I decided to purchase it, brought it home, removed the back, and painted all the numbers with a soft black. Once that dried, I added some wax to it for protection, let that dry, and then I placed it back into the clock frame, and I am so happy with this clock. This clock is 30 inches, which is on the lower range, but it's still in that range that they told me to. It has the black thin frame, and now it has the black lettering and the neutral background. So I uploaded a photo of the clock and the dimension, and this is the reply. This clock is right on target for the look you are going for. It's a much better scale for that 95-inch wall, and it sits perfectly in that sweet spot. Large enough to anchor that wall, but not so big that it will compete with the cabinet. So I asked Google Gemini, now that I have the clock, where do I place it on the wall? So I know I'm going to be removing the clock. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and then repair the wall where I have an anchor and a screw to secure the clock on the wall. So I want to do that first before we get started with this section of the wall. As you can tell, I need to repair just a small little hole. So I'm going to use some spackle and a putty knife. But before I do that, anytime you pull out a nail or a screw or an anchor, such as what I just did, you want to make sure that the wall is all smooth because some of the drywall pops out with the screw. So what I want to do is just try to push in all of the drywall back into the hole carefully without disturbing the drywall around the hole. And I'm just going to use my putty knife and try to secure it all back into the hole so I have a smooth surface. I'm going to take some painter's tape and go around the hole because I don't want to paint the whole wall and I want it to be camouflaged. And I'm hoping my new clock will cover up that hole, but I do want to repair it before we do that. Now I'm going to take my spackle and fill in that hole. And as you can see, the spackle went on the tape and not my wall, so I won't have to sand that. So I'm going to wait until that dries, sand it just a little bit, and then we'll touch it up with the paint color and remove the tape, and it should be good to go. So now let's hang the clock. Gemini says do not center it from the cabinet to the doorway. They want to place it 30 to 36 inches to the left of the cabinet. And then from the center of the clock, which would be the center of the hands, it should be 66 to 70 inches from the floor. I'm just going to start with the 36 and the 70, make that center mark, and then I'll play with it. It gives me 4 inches to play with on either way. 6 inches from the cabinet, mark it. Here's where my clock sat before, and here's where the mark. So they're moving it about 12 inches from where I had it before. And now we're going to go 70 inches from the floor. So this right here should be the center of my clock. I measure 15 inches My clock is 30 inches in diameter, so I'm going to measure 15 inches from that space, and my clock would sit way up here, and it would be right here. So that's probably accurate. So we're looking about right here. Yes. Where I place the anchors and the screws in the wall, I'm going to use really small nails. Place it where I have the tape. I have the tape level, and I have it marked where the brackets were on the back of my clock, so it gives me that pattern. Y'all have seen me do that before. But anyway, I'm going to use the nails because it's easier to spackle the holes of a nail than a screw and an anchor. So I'm going to put this on there, place the clock there just temporarily so I can see if the placement is right, and then I'll add the anchors and screws. So I'm going to ask Gemini if this is the right placement. Here's the reply after I uploaded the photo. That photo helps a lot. You've done a beautiful job getting the scale right between the clock and the cabinet. That's a definite improvement. The clock now feels more visually balanced with the cabinet and the lamp. You've achieved a better rhythm across the wall. The next question was, now that I have the clock up on the wall, do I need anything else on the wall or the floor? The reply, excellent question. Placement will make or break the balance of your wall. For your layout, the plant should go on the side with the clock, not the frames. Would you like me to generate a visual of the plant by the clock? I do love this look with the plant, but my question was, does the plant I have look too small for the wall? It's only a 4-foot plant. The reply was, in transitional farmhouse styling, plants usually act as height balancers, and 4 foot is just a bit too short to do that job in your layout. Here's what you can do to use your plant. Use a taller container or a plant stand that will raise the plant. Your goal is for the top of the foliage to reach about 4.5 to 5 feet total, so it visually balances the cabinet and the clock. That means that the planter should only be 2.5 feet of height, and the rest is your plant. So I wrote down this question, what planter or plant stand should I look for? Their recommendation was a wicker one. A woven basket echoes your routine cabinet doors, adds warmth and texture, softens the black accents. It's perfect for that transitional farmhouse with a modern flair. For the planter, a basket in the size I need was over $100, so I decided to create the color I need for the space with this planter I found in Walmart for under $25. I kept in mind the inspirational basket. This is round, it's textured, it's 24 inches tall. This will work to raise my plant to the proper height. But before I started in on this project, I uploaded a photo asking if this planter would work as well as the basket planter, if it was painted in the same color. Since you see me painting, you know that it approved. So what I did here is to make it a little warmer, I'm painting it a linen in chalk paint so that my stain will adhere to the chalk paint. I'm doing the inside as well, but I'm only going as far as the planter painted, so I'm just doing like almost halfway. After the 2 coats of linen chalk paint dried, it's time to create that basket color to my container. For the first step is apply the gel stain in walnut with a chip brush. A little stain goes a long way. I made sure to keep applying it in an up and down sweep, getting into the creases, working only in a 6-inch section at a time. After I had the gel stain all smoothed out, I used a handheld broom to even out the stain and to let that linen color peep out. Since I didn't have a warmer color gel stain on hand, I applied a layer of golden oak stain with the chip brush to give it a warmer tone. I used my brush to even it all out as well. I made sure to do the lip of the planter so that the stain wouldn't have drip marks. I did the same thing on the entire container. I do have a mess, but the planter turned out great. This will take some time to dry. Once it dries thoroughly, I will turn it and do the inside as well. Once everything had time to dry, I'll give it one coat of poly and let that dry. Took a snapshot of this and sent it to Gemini, and this is the reply. You've created a beautiful alternate that still fits your room's palette and style. The planner, its warm stain echoes your wood floor and furniture tones, keeping the palette cohesive. So before we can even position the plant and everything, we have to wait for the planner to dry. I have the stain on. We're just waiting for that to dry, and then I'm going to put a coat of poly on it. So we'll wait on that. But in the meantime, I'm going to see how Google Gemini styles the recliner, the lamp, and the end table since we have the clock up. So I'm going to take some photos and then we'll get right into it. So here is the view of the area I want Gemini to style. It is a place we use a lot, so I want the pieces to stay there, but maybe to tweak the space and redecorate the end table. I uploaded a front view, a side view, a back view, and I also did a full close-up view of the end table. Here's Gemini's reply. You've done a beautiful job styling this wall. The proportions are excellent and the tone flows naturally. All right, so let's go ahead and decorate the recliner, the end table, and the lamp area the way that Gemini said. And it said to keep the recliner angled like I have now, but slightly angle it toward the center of the room instead of toward the fireplace. So I'm going to try that. I don't know if that'll work because of the position of our other furniture, but let's try it. So I'm going to angle it just a little bit so we still have some room. And then it said to angle the end table the same way. So I did that. Now we're going to add some layer and texture to the recliner. Add a lightweight throw in a soft, neutral, and subtle pattern like a herringbone, linen, or mud cloth. Drape it over the back corner and make it feel like it's effortless. Okay, whatever that means. So I did grab one of my throws, and it is kind of the color of the lampshade, and it is like a herringbone, and it's lightweight. So I'm going to add it to the back corner of my recliner, and I'm going to try to do it effortlessly. All right, would this be effortlessly? I don't know, but I'm figuring that it means to look like it's been thrown on. So I'm just going to kind of wrinkle it up a little bit so it does look lived in and not placed, even though I'm placing it. All right, so let's move on. If you want the designer finish, keep the large solid pillow. So I'm going to put that back. All right, I put that back, but add a small lumbar pillow in a textured weave like a linen or a tweed that ties into the rug. It'll look tailored and modern while keeping the comfort. So I went into my stash. I do have this blue tweeded pillow, and it's a small lumbar, and it will match the rug perfectly. So I'm going to add it, and it says keep the lumbar pillow slightly angled in front of the larger one. That layer adds depth and comfort. So I'm going to angle it toward the center of the room. All right, now we're going to move to the end table. I'm going to remove everything off of it. And here's what it says for styling on the end table. Keep the plant, it adds life and softens the corner. So I'm going to add back my little pedestal plant. And then it says add a sculptured accent, something with shape but not height, like a small ceramic bow, a wooden beaded garland, or a stone candle, or any tiny vase for warmth and balance. I don't know if you remember my DIY stoned mortar, but I'm going to place that, and I did place a little candle inside, and I'm going to place this to the left of the plant. All right, now it says to add back the frame quote or art piece slightly forward from the plant in the center, and add a small neutral book stack under the tile for a layered look. Place it where the tile is toward the chair for a conversational piece. Okay, so here is the tile or the art piece that they're talking about that I had on the table before. And then I don't really want a stack of books, but I did find this Magnolia Story book in a thrift store while I was in Illinois. So I will place that on here. So I'm going to place it where they told me, in the center, and angle it toward the chair. I think that's what they're talking about, but we'll take a picture after we're done with this corner and see if I did it right. So for the lighting refinement, angle the lamp arm slightly toward the recliner so the light pulls softly over the chair's arm. It feels cozy and intentional. All right, so I need to move the lamp to where it's facing the arm instead of the table. And it said 8 to 6 inches from the wall. I wonder if that would hit somebody's head though. I'm going to move it over just a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to take a picture of the overall look and see what Google Gemini has to say, if I need to tweak something or move something back. And here's the reply. Recliner. The pillows and throws are perfectly layered, soft neutrals that lighten the dark leather while keeping that palette cohesive. The throw adds height and texture, echoing the cabinet's woven panel and the lampshade. The end table. The book with the white cover keeps the palette calm and cohesive, while the subtle print gives just enough pattern to break up the solid surface without stealing attention. The book acts as a base that connects the candle, tile, and plant into one unified group. The back view looks excellent. It confirms that your layout works beautifully from every angle. Now that the planner is done, I can place the plant in the new planner and sit it exactly where it belongs as per Google Gemini. 18 inches from the lamp, 6 inches from the wall, and 20 inches from the cabinet. After I had it situated, I took a photo, uploaded it to Google Gemini, and here's what it said. This looks fantastic. The stained cream planter works beautifully in this spot. You have achieved a really polished, cohesive look that ties the entire wall together. Here's what's working. The planner and the plant is balanced. The height and taper of the planner are ideal. It visually lifts the plant so it connects with the clock above and the cabinet beside it. The warm stain blends seamlessly with the wood floors and the recliner tone, keeping the palette unified. The cream undertone softens the transition between the dark cabinet and the lighter walls. The plant styling. The plant's leaf shape and fullness are perfect for the corner, and it adds organic movement without feeling heavy. You might gently angle the plant so the top leaves lean slightly toward the cabinet. That subtle shift will visually connect the two pieces. All right, so I did what it said and moved the plant where the top is going toward the cabinet, and it does look better, just that little bit, driving me crazy. So we ran out of daylight yesterday, so we're gonna start back decorating that cabinet as Google Gemini recommended. Here's my cabinet as it sits today. I gave Google Gemini a picture and the measurements, and this is the reply. You've got such a refined setup here. The cabinet already feels elegant and balanced, and with only 12 inches of depth and 24 inches of clearance to the ceiling, the key is to keep it styling light and sculptured so it doesn't feel cramped. All right, so the first thing they replied to was, think of the top as a frame extension and not a shelf. So Gemini recommended one vase with a eucalyptus stem, keeping it airy, and a thin frame about 14 to 18 inches wide and 16 by 20 inches tall, which is the frame that I had up there before, and a flat black spear, about 5 inches. And then I thought, you know, black on black, and this is their reply. Yes, a matte black reads a different material because the cabinet is a wood stained black. That's all it said. So let's do the placement. The first thing it said was position your frame that you already had up there, the right center, about 2/3 to the right cabinet door, leaning it against the wall. So they're saying to lean it against the wall and put it 2/3 of the way on this door panel. So I'm using my frame that I had up there prior, and I'm going to lean it on the wall instead of hanging it on the wall. And I'm going to go about 2/3 of the door. All right, I think that's 2/3. And then the vase, which they recommended a 14 to 16 inch vase with eucalyptus stem ranging from 4 to 6 stems, but keeping it airy. So instead of a 14 to 16 inch, I grabbed my, it's about a 13 inch vase. When I placed anything higher than a 14, 15, 16 inch vase, it was so tall that my eucalyptus touched the ceiling, and they said, do not do that. Give it a little bit of breathing space. So I grabbed my homemade vase and 3 eucalyptus stems, because my eucalyptus stems are a bundle and not just a stem. And I try to keep it airy. I only used 3 stems. 2 wouldn't have been enough. 3 might be a little bit too much, but I don't want to cut my bundles. So I'm using that. And it also said to make your arrangement in a triangle form. So I kept it a little bit higher, and then I tweaked the sides so that it will make it more of a triangle than a round shape. And they said to position the vase with your eucalyptus stems left of the frame, more with the cabinet left door. So I'm going to place it left of the frame and center it with that left cabinet arch. So I'm going to place that up here. I guess that's right. For the flat black spear, I didn't have a 5-inch spear. All mine were like a 4-inch, and I didn't want to go out and buy anything. But I did have a vase that was very circular. Here's a picture of it. And I asked, can I use this instead of a spear? They said most certainly that would work. So I painted it a flat black. And I'm going to put it up there in the position, the small black vase, about 2 inches to the right of the big vase, moving it forward to create depth. So I'm going to place that up there, more into the front, about 2 inches from the vase. but more forward. So I really do like that whole setting, but what is getting me is that black vase. Even though it does look good, it just doesn't look good against my brownish vase. So I think if I could do a modification of what Google Gemini would suggest, is maybe use a brown black, like a black with some brown tones in it. Maybe that won't clash so much. I feel like the vase, the little small vase, is where your eye is drawn, and I think it's supposed to be just all subtle. So I don't know yet. That's just my thought, and it's my house, so I'm going to do it. So I'm going to paint that more of a brownish black. I'm going to customize the color, and then I'll be right back. Painted my vase into a warmer black. I mixed up some black and umber, and this is the color, and I think it's softer, warmer, and a bit better for me than the black. But we're going to put it up there, see if Google Gemini recognizes that I changed the vase, and we'll see what it says. All right, so what do you think? Can you tell a difference? Probably not, but in my head, mentally, I know that it's a warmer black, and I feel more comfortable with it up there. I'm going to upload a photo of this and see what Gemini says. Here's the reply. This looks absolutely beautiful. You have achieved a really polished, cohesive vignette that feels balanced and intentional. Here's what's working perfectly: the cabinet top. The large vase with greenery anchors the arrangement and draws the eye upward without crowding the ceiling. The small black vase adds contrast and ties in with the cabinet dark finish, creating a sophisticated palette. The leaning frame introduces heights, variation, and depth. It's the right proportion for your 12-inch top and 24-inch clearance. Overall, this is a beautiful balanced composition, warm, cohesive, and perfectly scaled for your space. All right, now we're going to work on the last part of the wall, and this is where the stacked frames are. Now the basket was over on the other side of the cabinet and the plant was here, but we've moved that. I'm going to upload a photo of this space and see what they come up with for the last part of my wall. And here's the reply of this space. This wall already has a lovely foundation. The artwork and basket feels warm and cohesive with your cabinet, but with a few subtle tweaks, you can make it feel more intentional and designer level polished. The overall goal is to make this wall feel like a continuation of your cabinet vignette, warm, layered, and intentional. Gemini's recommendation was to replace the gold frames with a matte black frame. Also, the dark matting changed to a linen. And instead of buying all new, I just painted what I had, and the mats turned out beautifully. They said I can keep the artwork and the inner brown mats, so I'm waiting for everything to dry. We're going to start hanging the picture light and the frames back on the wall. But we're going to do it correctly this time. Gemini says to work down to the ground instead of ground up. I always do ground up. So it says ideal picture light height for an 8-foot ceiling should be anywhere from 74 to 76 inches from the floor. So I'm going to go with the higher number. It gives me 2 inches to play with. And then they said to center it from the cabinet to the corner of the wall. So I'm going to do the measurements. I'm going to go 76 from the floor up and then center it. So I'm using a chalk pen and wipe off the mark because a pencil is hard to do sometimes. This is where my picture light used to be. Here's where they're saying it should be. Hang my picture light up, and then I'm going to measure 2 inches down, hang the first one, and then 2 inches down, hang the other one. All right, so placing them up on the wall, I asked Google Gemini which one should go on top and which one should go on bottom, since they're both a different scenery. And this is the reply. In a stacked arrangement, it is best to place the heavier, darker piece on the bottom and the lighter, airier one on top. This allows the eye to move upward naturally, and the grouping won't feel so heavy. So the mountain scenery I had is more visual, weighted, and dark tones. That's why I put it down on the bottom. And then the tree and path scene feels lighter and more open, so I put it on top. And just for giggles, I did it the other way, and I want to say it looks a lot better with the lighter one on top and the heavier one on bottom. All right, now we need to finish the rest of the space by doing the decorations on the floor. They recommended to bring back my basket, but to remove the 3 heavy throws and place 1 light soft cream or linen throw with a linen pillow. So I did place a blanket and a pillow. And then it said to place by the basket a small stool or a side table. And I have 3 of those. So I gave them the picture and chose the one that I just purchased at that antique mall that had the white legs. They said to leave the wooden seat, but to paint the legs a soft black. So that's what I did. And we will place them exactly where they tell me. The stool placement, center the stool directly under the midpoint between the 2 frames. Pull it about 4 to 6 inches away from the wall so it doesn't look pressed flat. That tiny shadow will add depth. Keep the stool legs parallel to the wall for a clean architectural line. So I am thinking, since mine is a tripod type of legs, I'm thinking when they say place the legs parallel to the wall, they mean the 2 back legs and keep the front out. And they said to put it 4 to 6 inches away from the wall, and then the basket, move the basket 8 to 10 inches to the right of the stool, angle it slightly toward the stool so the pillow and the throw feels connected. That alignment grounds the grouping visually. We're going to put this parallel to the middle of the frames, about 4 to 6 inches. And then the basket, all right, I'm not for sure if I like how that looks. The basket just looks out there and the stool looks too small. Wondering if it would look better that way. I'm going to show them that picture and see if that looks better. My question was, how about that? And it liked it. It said it needed something. It looked flat. To put something on the stool, like a little vase under 7 inches with just a small stem sticking out. So I grabbed my wooden vase and stained it a black. And this just added 2 little sprigs of eucalyptus. I'm going to sit it on the stool. All right, so let's see what Google Gemini has to say about this space. The overall impression, the space reads as warm, modern with organic undertones, sophisticated but approachable. It's the kind of styling that feels curated rather than decorated. Honestly, you created a composition that feels complete and serene. quick reminder of how the space looked before this challenge. I knew that I liked the clock there and the stacked frames and the cabinet decorated, but I also knew that something wasn't right, that it was off. So here's what Google Gemini had to say about my space. Your wall and surrounding space looked absolutely stunning. It evolved into a cohesive designer-level composition. You've achieved the balance between warmth, contrast, and flow that makes the entire room feel intentional and inviting. My overall thought: the black cabinet now acts as a visual anchor, perfectly centered between the clock and the framed art. The vertical rhythm, cabinet stacked frames, dual vignette draws the eye upward and gives the wall height. The black accent, cabinet, frames, stool legs, and vase repeats just enough to feel unified without being heavy. You have texture and tone harmony. The cane panels, woven baskets, and wooden stool seat introduces an organic warmth that softens the black element. The pillow and throw adds cozy texture and echoes the lighter tones in your rug and ceiling trim. The greenery, both on top of the cabinets and beside the chair, keeps the palette lively and natural. My final impression: the space reads as warm, traditional, with organic, modern undertone, sophisticated yet comfortable. It feels curated, not decorated, and every element now connects visually and tonally. All right, y'all, that will conclude my video here today on the AI challenge. For the most part, I really do love how it generated a style for me. It was much easier than trying to think it all alone up in my head. But there was some trying times about the measurements and the scale that they gave me. So even with the right measurements, they still got it off scale. But I did still get the gist of it all. Also, your wording, I would say create an image, and it would create an image, but it would be some off of the wall image. It would be really what we were talking about. So your wording had to be right on exactly what you wanted it to do, because they can't read your mind. So all in all, I had fun, and I hope you love my wall here. I might just let Gemini do my whole room here and see how that would turn out. You know, when you decorate all the time because of an influencer and giving you ideas on how you can style your home, you run out of ideas. So AI really helps to give you fresh new ideas. But you still got to do the legwork. You still got to find that item that you like and not what they're telling you, such as that real stark black pot I didn't like, or the stool in the basket, that position that they told me. I did a lot of tweaking. I did change out my vase. I didn't like that tall vase. They liked it. I didn't. So I changed out the vase and I switched the vase around. It was up here. It just looked too heavy with the plant down there. And I like that, but would I have thought of that without AI? Probably not. So I did enjoy it, and I did get inspired by it. But like I said, it was a lot of legwork. But anytime you decorate, you're going to have to do a little bit of work. It's just not going to come naturally to some of us, and some of you are so lucky that it does. Also, if you like these types of videos, give me a big thumbs up by clicking that like button and going up to Decorate with Tip and More if you have time, and click that follow button so you start following me and all my videos will come down to your feed so you don't have to find me. If you think this is something that your friends on your Facebook page would like to see, Sprinkle it onto your page so more of your friends might want to come over and be mine. Y'all have a great weekend. Thank you for coming by. I hope you have a great tomorrow. God bless. Bye-bye.